So let's talk about public transit for a second. Public transit, we need it in the town desperately. For a town that's population is based heavily on the seniors, and we have a large number of our population that are disabled or otherwise immobile. We have no public transit, but how would that look for us? Our geography states that we're linear. We have a large surface area that spans a long line. So a bus system, as many would see we need, would be very complicated, and not something like you picture as Metrobus. Now, in the airline industry, we refer to that as a hub and spoke. And the hub and spoke means that you get to main points and you feed out of it. And you have what was referred to as often as a mainline carrier, such as Air Canada or WestJet. And they would go to major points like Ottawa, Halifax, St. John's, and Calgary, you name it. Then you have within that system, you have what's called regional carriers. So these carriers are the ones that then connect from there out to the smaller entries. In my mind, any kind of a public transit system would have to take into account that kind of a model where you have a hub and spoke connection, and then perhaps we could actually have a point where you could actually take a bus and meet up with a Metro bus point and then continue on. The reality is, though, it's a long haul on a bus. It's a lot of transport. So in order to get people to appointments in say Eastern Health down at the Health Sciences Center, well, one would expect they'd have to leave at around 6 in the morning. By the time they got there, they'd have to be mobile a long time just to get there for a 9 o'clock appointment. So it's definitely tricky, and there has to be some solution that is not a simple put a bus on, because there's got to be a better way. I also think that we also need to consider, why are we leaving the town, or what are we doing for our busings? And a lot of it is medical appointments. So perhaps the town should be lobbying the provincial government and Eastern Health for a sort of a super clinic somewhere in the upper gullies and Seal Cove areas, perhaps along the lines of something you'd see on Major's Path, where you have a lot of extra services that can be provided, so people don't have to travel as far. Then an internal busing system would make sense for getting around for that. So buses, absolutely. Expense, oh yeah. Look at Corner Brook. Corner Brook, from what I remember, seems to have had to pay $400,000 in subsidies for their bus systems per year, and then that system is tightly contained within their own geography. So it works. You can get to different points within 15-20 minutes, and it's not so complicated. In our case, well, $400,000 a year, that's a lot. But if we didn't spend an exorbitant amount of money buying land to put parks on, such as a $950,000 land purchase to put a park in the downtown area, and we could have put a park on existing town land somewhere, and there's lots of that, look it up, then that $950,000 that was spent on a land purchase could have been directed to public transit or some other way to get people, especially people with disabilities, around. You ask anyone who's got a child that has any sort of a requirement, sure, it's a lovely accessible playground, but how are they going to get there? Like, seriously, how are they going to get there? How are they going to make their way down to that? And they need to. So we need transit. We need to be wise with how we figure out how we're going to use it and then what we're using it for. As you can see, I probably have more questions than I have answers. I just know that there's a few models out there that may work better for our situation. But whatever it is, keep people on this one. Make sure that whoever is sitting in that council chamber on September 29th has this as a priority. And every time they spend a nickel, and I mean a nickel, that they should be considering how could this have been spent more wisely or redirected to a transit support system in some regard. Anyway, on to this for us, and remember to vote. Get your people out to vote. Tell them to vote, and whoever sits in that council chamber, make sure that they answer to you and they are accountable all the time. Lots of ideas. Keep bringing them forward.